30 Odd Minutes is sponsored in part by Digital Dowsing. Who are you powered by?
For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30 Odd Minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Oh, poof. Man, another fine landing.
Yeah.
Where are we this time?
Right where we're supposed to be, Bethlehem.
Bethlehem. So we must be talking about biblical stuff.
You got it.
Oh, this mission is going to be interesting. Have you read the Bible? That's a no. You took too long to answer.
No.
I've read it. I was a good Catholic boy upbringing. There are a few passages that stuck out. We're going to talk about some of them. Some of them seemed awfully technical.
That's probably why I stopped from reading it. Too many big words.
I'll send you the highlighted section.
Okay,
It's
fine.
pretty cool.
Fine.
How have you been?
Pretty good. How'd your weekend go?
My weekend was good. It was my daughter's 7th birthday.
Wow.
And as you might be able to imagine, the cake was a little bit creepy and a little bit weird.
How so?
Take a look. Huh?
Oh, okay.
Huh? What other 7-year-olds have that on their birthday cake?
So do you run to Sophie's bedroom with nightmares, or does she?
I pretty much just sleep in there and duck under the covers, and we say our prayers every time we have nightmares because we want God's help in keeping the bad dreams away, of course. And speaking of prayers, I prayed that we would have a good show tonight, a good mission, and we're talking about not just biblical stuff, biblical prophecies, but potentially ancient aliens, ancient astronauts.
Yeah.
And we posed it to Dr. Dreck. Look at what he came up with.
Greetings, oddballs. It's Dr. Dreck here. We've all heard about ancient astronauts, but do you know that the reverse could be true, too? And to prove it, I have a guest here tonight, Mr. Quack from the planet Nixnar, who is going to offer us photographic evidence of Earthlings visiting his planet.
Thank you, Dr. Dreck. This photo was taken of our peaceful Goonflat desert, where we captured a picture of this idiot flying overhead with a radio turned all the way up. Here's some earthly clown cutting me off in traffic just the other day. And all over our beaches, we find these artifacts littered everywhere. None of us would do such a thing.
Sorry about that, Quark. I guess while we've been visited by ancient astronauts, you've been visited by asses.
Yeah, we were left with pyramids. Leaving beer cans is not cool.
That's what we would do, though, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
We totally would do that. All right, let's get into this. The Bible, Quran, and other religious texts are all full of mysteries. But are they just metaphors? Or were our ancestors being specific when they described what to them might have seemed like gods, but to us would look like rocket ships, extraterrestrials, and other advanced technologies? Tonight's guest is well suited to discuss this topic. He holds a master's in divinity degree from Theological Seminary in New York City. He's currently a minister at a Unitarian Universalist congregation, and he's at his own extraterrestrial contact. He's also the author of the book Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible. You've seen him on the Syfy Channel and History Channel's Ancient Aliens. Tonight, he's all ours. Please welcome live from the mountains of North Carolina, Reverend Michael J.S. Carter. Greetings, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming aboard the mothership, Reverend Carter. We appreciate it.
I love it.
Yeah, well, so let's take us back. Let's start with December 28th, 1989, New York City. You had your first contact experience. What happened?
Oh my goodness, yes. I went to Cancun at that time was my wife, and we went to visit Chichen Itza and Tulum on the Yucatan Peninsula, and went to see the pyramids, and just really got into the Mayan culture as much as we could on vacation. And this is one of the step pyramids that we had ascended and descended and just hung around while we were there. It was a fantastic trip. I went back to New York, and a friend of mine had invited me to a party, and I was exhausted, but the human ego, it was like 85 degrees in Mexico, and it was like 25 degrees in New York, so I wanted to go and show off, and I just got back to Mexico. So I stayed about an hour and a half, no beverages at all, had some potato salad, some food, and after about 90 minutes, I was tired. I said, listen, I'm going to go back home. So I caught the subway back home, and that evening I woke up in the middle of the night, and even to this day I don't know why, because I didn't have to go to the bathroom or anything. And when I got up, my room was lit up, like there was it was just lit up with this bluish white light, and there was a being on the edge of my bed. And the being looked at me. It wasn't gray. It was more of a chalk white. It looked very short, and it had a jumpsuit like tinfoil. It was like aluminum foil, but it was very close. It was fitted very close. The pear-shaped head, the kind of Ray-Ban wraparound eyes, and it just stared at me. I stared back. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And so I did what any other macho, red-blooded American man would do. I pulled the covers over my head and went back, and I still remember that. And I don't know what else could I have done. And I heard this whoosh, this whooshing sound, and I felt like I had been taken outside because the temperature, it would just change like that. I pulled the covers back down. I was in my room. It was quiet. And this started happening. My wife would not or did not wake up. And this started happening every 6-8 months. When they used to come, they would paralyze me. But I wouldn't be asleep. And they would send messages, and I'll say who they were. It was pictures in my, it was very seldom there was a voice. I went to a psychiatrist. I went to Dr. Jean Monday, who has since passed away. And she regressed me. And, she said, well, the good news, it depends on how you look at it. The good news is that this is you didn't make this up. You are sane. Now, what you do with it can be bad news or good news. And so I found a support group. I'm not a Trekkie. I have never seen an episode of Star Trek. So I didn't have these kind of sci-fi influences. To this day, at 57, I've never seen an episode of Star Trek.
That's heresy, sir. Heresy.
I know, but I got
But your point's well taken, though. You didn't have sci-fi in the brain.
Right.
Give us Barabbas. No, but so I can't draw on that.
Sure.
But it got me to thinking. It changed my life. Of course, yes, it changed my life. The birth of my daughter changed my life. But remember, when I was in New York at this time, I was pursuing a career in the theater. So I was kind of like party guy. I was, you go, you audition, your show closes. I was living life in a fast lane. And this kind of was like cold water in the face, as if to say to me, what are you doing, man? This is not a dress rehearsal. Right. This is not what you signed up for. So it changed my life.
Well, let's fast forward now almost a decade, and you decide to go into ministry.
Yes.
Now I know you're Unitarian Universalists, a very accepting belief system. All are welcome in that group. But what happens? How do you put these two experiences together? The religious teachings, the biblical Judeo-biblical Christian biblical teachings, and this experience you had that doesn't necessarily fit. How did you bring those two together?
Well, I think it does fit, and what I did was just very quickly the old, Jesus said you don't put old wine in new wineskins. There was something about the Baptist theology that if you didn't believe the way I believed, you'd go to hell. I was just having problems with that. I knew good people, children who were born in another country, they didn't believe in Jesus and they would go to hell. That didn't fit anymore. I tried to make it fit, but it didn't. But my experiences drove me to the Bible. But there were other people along the way. Dr. Barry Downing, who wrote a book back in 1968 called The Bible and Flying Saucers. Morris K. Jessup wrote a book back in the 50s, UFOs in the Bible. Virginia Brasington wrote a book. So there were people before me.
Sure.
And I'm very good friends with Barry. We just look at theology very differently. But these experiences that I was having and continue to have made me look at the Bible in a different way. To me, it still has the beauty in it. It still has the life lessons in it. But I'm just saying, I could be wrong, but I feel that this book is telling us that our ancestors had face-to-face encounters with off-world astronauts who they mistook as gods. I'm not saying there is no God, and if I didn't believe in a God, I'd say I didn't. But I'm just saying that I think they mistook these beings who were trying to bring some type of civilization, some type of spirituality to very tribal people. I think this is how Islam, Judaism, and Christianity began its origins.
Right. Now, let's talk about a couple of specific passages. You sent some ahead of time, which was appreciated, and there's some that we'll talk about too. Let's start with Exodus 13:21. Do you want to read it, or should I? Because I've got it here. If you're...
Would you read it to me?
Absolutely, of course. I don't expect anyone to memorize any book. So.
I used to when I was younger. Oh, no, I have it right here.
Okay.
Exodus 13:21. This is from the New Revised Standard Version. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they might travel by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night did not depart from the people. Now, let's put it in a context. First of all, there is no Jewish religion until the Exodus. There's no Judaism. Moses leads the people, the Red Sea parts, this ship, which I think it's a ship, it's over them. By day, it's a pillar of cloud. We have modern day UFO experiences where they either hide behind clouds, they're camouflaged in clouds, or they come out of the clouds. In the evening, it glows. It's the pillar of fire by night. So, pillar of cloud by day, pillar of fire by night. It stops in midair. They camp underneath of it.
Right.
In the day, they pack up their things and they move on. That's at least an unidentified flying object. It's intelligent.
Sure.
And so I believe that this is where Judaism begins, after the Jews leave Egypt.
And it's so interesting, too, because you say pillar of cloud, pillar of fire. Think about any image you've ever seen of a rocket taking off.
Oh, yeah.
Cloud, right? Fire that pushes it off, through the atmosphere and into space. It's interesting. Now, there's more passages, too. Amos 5:8.
Well, yeah, and I want to say, getting back to the cloud, is that just like we say, we went from an unidentified flying object to UFO. As we go along, Jesus goes up in the clouds. They don't say pillar of fire by day, they just abbreviate it. Amos has several passages that I think are UFO passages. But let me just see if I can find. I had several of them. There's one where they're talking about the Pleiades.
Yeah, the Pleiades and Orion, specifically. He who made Pleiades and Orion, who turns midnight into dawn and darkness day into night, who calls for the waters of the sea.
5:8. Who made the Pleiades and Orion? Now, you just said it. How did they even know about these star systems? Sure. I was taught that the world was flat until Columbus. Okay? And then we find out that the world is not. But here, not only are they saying, they name a star system. They're talking about the Pleiades and Orion. And I'm going to jump to, let's look at Isaiah. Let me find Isaiah.
Probably chapter 40, verse 22.
Oh, yes, Isaiah 40, verse 21. It is he who sits above the circle of the earth. How do they know the earth's a circle? And its inhabitants are like grasshoppers. So, I mean, this is the view of someone looking down from a great height. And so, again, these were just clues to me as to, are we talking about astronauts here? Again, for me, it doesn't take away from the message, but maybe we mistook some things.
Right.
And so what's interesting is the conservative Christian brothers and sisters, well, now they're more open. I remember when they would say UFOs don't exist at all. Now they exist, but they're demonic. the liberal or progressive Christians say, well, no, all of this is just allegory. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, you can't read anything into it. And of course, like the Buddha says, you take the middle path. The truth is always in the middle somewhere.
Sure. Now, so here's the thing. Now, if we put ourselves into the historical context, which you do in your book, Alien Scriptures, you talk about, the historical context, UFOs in antiquity, and things like that. If we look at the time period, a shield of fire coming down, I mean, that sounds like a craft to us. Yeah. But to them, they interpret it. It looks like a shield. I see fire. I understand those two things. So there's so many little parts of the Bible that, what did Mark Twain say? It's not so much the parts of the Bible I don't understand. It's the parts I do that worry me. Some of them seem so literal and are, for example, when they describe the ark, it's so many cubits by so many cubits. It's very technical. Obviously, someone's trying to get across that this is a real thing that someone witnessed. Yes. And there's other passages like that, too. Like we're talking about pillars of fire, naming specific constellations.
Yes, I think it's just very self-explanatory. If we look at Job chapter 9, verse 9, who made the bear and Orion and the Pleiades? I mean, even if you just took those passages, you'd have to say, where are they getting this information? How do they know about these star systems?
Right.
I think it's just laid out for us there. Now, if we go into the New Testament or the Second Testament, Jesus tells us in Matthew and John, my kingdom is not of this world. I mean, he's very open about that. But he also says that, if your daddy is not human and your mother is human, then you're a hybrid.
Right.
It certainly would make sense for some of the miracles, some of these types of things. And Gabriel, he's got a great job. These angels have great jobs because every woman they meet becomes pregnant. It's a wonderful job. They're older. These women are older. If you go to Abraham and Sarah, Sarah's barren. Okay, she's past menopause. Next thing you know, she's pregnant. Samson's mother. She doesn't even have a name because women were worse than second-class citizens back then. Manoah is Samson's father in Judges, but guess what? She gets visited, she's pregnant. John the Baptist, Elizabeth, Mary's cousin. She gets visited, she's pregnant. And, of course, Jesus' mother. It's a great job.
Absolutely. And is it advanced technology or is it miracles, right?
Yes.
It's going to come down to belief. Reverend Carter, hang with us for just a minute. We've got to take a quick break for the news. We're going to come back and talk more Alien Scriptures with Reverend Michael J.S. Carter right after this.
Two separate sightings of a flying humanoid have recently been reported in the state of Oregon. Both encounters happened on the same Sunday evening of February the 16th, 2014. The first report comes from a man and his wife living in the town of Roseburg. Both of them do not want their names released. The husband says he was sitting on his porch at 6 p.m. smoking a cigarette when he noticed what looked like a man wearing a black wetsuit and a cape in one of his neighbor's tall trees. He called for his wife to come and see the strange character for herself and to take a picture with her cell phone. The couple said that when the camera's flash went off, the figure came down out of the tree with the motion of a lizard and then approached them like a man walking on two legs. The woman was so terrified she dropped her cell phone and ran back into the house. Her husband said he held his ground long enough to watch this dark entity hover a few feet above the street before it shot straight up into a bright light in the night sky. The second report is from the town of Corvallis. There, a 22-year-old student who was identified by the first initial K and the last name Smith said that while walking home that night, he saw a dark human-shaped figure fly off of a neighbor's roof. All three of these witnesses reported that the figure was dressed in a tight black outfit and it had unusually long arms. Mr. Smith said he saw no wings and that the entity flew away in a strange zigzag pattern. He said it also made a strange electronic humming noise before doing so. Sounds like Spring-Heeled Jack got himself an upgrade. I'm Andrew Lake, and oddly enough, that's the news.
Andrew, of all the paranormal photos we've ever shown on these missions, that one is somewhere right near the bottom.
Yeah, unfortunate. I mean, yeah, I understand the story, but every paranormal photograph of something incredible has to be this blurry, pixelated mess. It's frustrating.
We know people that have shown us photos over the years that say, "Look at this! You can see there's clearly a leprechaun in this tree," and you look and it's just a pine tree, and you're holding it upside down and you're standing on your head and you're saying, "I don't know, I don't see it." That being said, Spring-Heeled Jack is a great example. I mean, figures like that come up again and again.
Again. Even on Cape Cod, Massachusetts during World War II, they had the same descriptive character doing the same sort of activity, and he just disappeared one day, reportedly after somebody threw a bucket of hot water on him, boiling water. But the idea of leaping and just disappearing from sight, winged creatures and flying humanoids.
And we do our best to interpret something strange, right? When we see something weird like that, like a UFO, like a Bigfoot, whatever, we reach into what we've learned so far.
Right into the
and
grab
if
bag.
that doesn't fit, right, we go to our belief systems, to our religious texts, and so on. And that's kind of what we're talking about tonight: alien scriptures, extraterrestrials, in the Holy Bible, with Reverend Michael J.S. Carter. And so, Reverend Carter, we just started to talk about some of the other creatures. Now we're not just talking about technical stuff. Let's talk about the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim, the tall whites that are referenced there. Could these be extraterrestrials, or are you suggesting maybe they're hybrids?
I'm suggesting that yes, they are hybrids. But again, if we go by my hypothesis, Jesus was a hybrid. They don't have wings, so we know they're not angels. People, I'm not saying there's no such thing as angels, but I think our ancestors drew wings on these folk to let us know that they could fly. Yes, in Genesis 6, talking about the Nephilim, they saw that the women were beautiful and they mated with them, and they had hybrids. Now, if you want to know more about that, you go to the Book of Enoch, because Enoch is the scribe who lived among these extraterrestrials, and he wrote down what they were like. He talks about in depth what the Book of Genesis doesn't go into, and that we were taught astrology, astronomy, a lot of things which we would call occult. We were shown how to make weapons. And what's interesting about that, they call it sorcery, astronomy, but we didn't have the spiritual maturity to handle the weapons. We made war with each other.
Sure.
The Bible, And today we have all this technology, but we don't have the spirituality to handle it. It's like kids playing with matches. And we have crises in Russia. We could have things in the Middle East that could get apocalyptic really fast. Because once again, we have all this technology, but we don't know what to do with it. We make weapons. We make drones. So we've come a long way, and then we still have a long way to go. It's just that the stakes are higher now.
Sure.
Because we have enough nuclear weapons to blow this planet up umpteen times, which is also why there's so many, or have been, especially in the 50s, but many sightings are seen over our nuclear installations.
Sure, and that's still today. I mean, there's still hot spots. Absolutely. Now, there's an image I did want to show. This is a painting from the late 1400s, the Nativity, right? You've got Mary with the baby Jesus. So could it be that back in the 1400s, as these painters are interpreting the religious text, look over Mary's shoulder. We'll give a close-up here. There's this circular thing in the sky, this possible craft.
With a shepherd looking at it.
With a shepherd pointing, in the corner. You can see right down there in the corner, the shepherd pointing up in the sky, looking at this disc. Yeah. So even our artists, half a millennia ago, were interpreting some of this stuff as an actual craft in the sky.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it's just clear. It's there. It's almost like Arthur C. Clarke's book. Remember Childhood's End, if you ever read that. And we have to grow up. We have to realize that we're not alone, and that we have to learn to love. We have to learn just to be more civilized. And I mean, the stakes are just too high. Remember, Dr. King said a long time ago in a different context that the choice for humankind is not nonviolence versus violence, but is nonviolence versus non-existence.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
And I think this is what we're facing today.
Now,
for a person like me, I'm a clergy person. This is the message I want to I want to spread. I don't have a UFO church, though. I don't want you to hear that.
No, and that's funny you say that. We have a question here from Andrew Richburg, one of the folks in our chat room. He's asking, is this like a New Age church? Unitarian Universalists, you've got to answer to a hierarchy and so on. Do you talk about this at all from the pulpit?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, no. Unitarian Universalism is not New Age. There's no such thing as New Age. There's ancient wisdom that's just being recently discovered. New Age sounds pejorative to me, whether the gentleman or the lady meant it or not. Sure. No, Unitarian Universalism, we're part of the Protestant Reformation. We just said that there's no Trinity, that God is one. That's the Unitarian side. That where is the Trinity? Jesus is in Gethsemane before his crucifixion. He's praying to God. He's not praying to himself. He says, no one is good but God. Why do you call me God? So we're just using our reason and common sense and saying there's no Trinity. It's a very weird mathematical formula. Now, the Universalist side of our denomination says God is love. That a loving God would not damn anybody to hell. And if God is love, then that's a very unloving thing to do.
Right.
Not profound, just common sense. We merged in 1961. But these two forms of the Protestant Reformation, Unitarianism came to this country, and it was in 1825. The Unitarian Universalist Association was formed. Universalism came to this country in New Jersey in 1774 by John Mary brought it over. So this is nothing new.
Sure.
We're just saying that God, if we want to call it that, is love. So we don't believe that people are going to be burning in hell. Right.
So, Reverend Carter, tell me this: are you still having encounters? Are you still having these experiences?
Yes, I had March 5th. Just a few days ago, I had a visit, not as dramatic as the one I had July 4th of last year. The July 5th one happened at 1:22 a.m. The other one, July 4th, March 5th happened at 1:22 a.m. July 4th happened at 9:49 a.m. I had a really rough year last year. My dad had died. I had some personal relationship issues that were being worked out, but I also had a blood clot in my leg that was as long as my leg. I was on Coumadin. I was injecting myself with something called a Nexaparent to shrink the clot, and I had a visit, and the next day my blood clot was gone. My legs were back to normal. Of course, the doctors wanted to know how that could happen. Of course, I did not tell them how that could happen. But I got off the Coumadin in 4 months instead of 6 months. But there had been years between some of my visits. I mean, they were hot and heavy in New York, and whenever I traveled somewhere, they could find me. I would have a visit. And then I've had 2 visits so far in the past year where someone has come in my room.
So, Reverend Carter, I'm sorry, we are almost out of time. In just 15 seconds, sum it up. Do you think these are all creatures of God?
I think we're all creatures of God.
Okay.
I mean, creation, that's what creation is. I don't think that all of them want to hold hands and sing Kumbaya with us. No, they're more evolved and they're less evolved, but it's not about them. It's about us. How do we learn to love?
Right.
How do we learn to love? That's what this whole thing is about.
Right.
And you don't need aliens to come into your room and teach you that.
I appreciate it. The book is called Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible. We'll have links to your website from ours. You can get it on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Reverend Michael J.S. Carter, thank you so much for joining us here on 30-odd Minutes on the Mothership. We've enjoyed having you. It's never enough time, is it?
No, it never is.
It never is. For more information, check out his book, check out his website, and folks, stay odd.